Thank you very much, Dr. Stranges, for that excessively kind introduction, which proves that not all forms of inflation are painful. Thank you, Dr. Downs, President Marr, distinguished trustees, faculty and guests, proud parents, and especially the members of the great class of 2014. I am honored to receive with you a degree today. It is also my honor to inflict upon you, the class of 2014, the last lecture you must endure before leaving this lovely campus. I am, I should confess, a lapsed professor. I grew up a faculty brat. My father was a professor of philosophy at the University of Illinois, and I began my life as a college professor. That is not considered a virtue in the political world I now inhabit. I well remember in 1976, when two of my friends were running against each other for the office of United States Senator from this state. One was William F. Buckley's brother, Jim Buckley, who was then the incumbent senator. And another friend of mine was his challenger, Daniel Patrick Moynihan. The June night when both received their party's nominations, Jim Buckley, over at his headquarters, said, "I congratulate Professor Moynihan and look forward to running against Professor Moynihan, who I know will run the kind of high-level campaign you would expect from a Harvard professor." Over at Moynihan's headquarters, a journalist said, "Pat, Jim Buckley is referring to you as Professor Moynihan." To which Pat replied, the mudslinging has begun. I am, you will be happy to know, aware that I should not detain you for long. Brevity is not only the soul of wit and the essence of lingerie, it also is, on occasions such as this, polite and prudent. I am, after all, the last person standing between you and the world. It is about a small portion of that world that I wish to speak. It is the world of politics. Now, I know there are in our midst tonight some friends from Canada, and as was said, I spent a year and a half happily at the University of Toronto. What I say tonight will be of particular concern about the city of Washington, but I'm quite sure much of it obtains and pertains to Ottawa. I will not speak about the current Mayor of Toronto. I want to take this occasion to thank you who are today graduating, you of the class of 2014, for all the hours, days, weeks, months actually, perhaps even years, that you are going to work to support me and others who are or soon will be, as I am, elderly. You see, the primary business of today's government, of our welfare state or entitlement state, call it what you will, the primary business of today's government is to transfer wealth from the working young and middle-aged to the retired elderly in the form of pensions and health care. That is, Social Security and Medicare. This is, I note, a regressive transfer of wealth, because the elderly are, after a lifetime of accumulation, more affluent than the population is generally. And because the welfare state is especially important to the elderly are especially apt to vote. Hence, increasingly, we have the politics of gerontocracy, government by as well as for the elderly. So again, I say thank you in advance for all that you are going to spend through your taxes on my behalf. Now, if you, during your family forming and house buying years, if you would rather not spend quite so much of your time and your earnings supporting people like me, you are going to have to pay attention to politics, particularly you Americans to Washington. For 4.5 decades, I have lived in Washington, participating in our great public controversies. Washington has been well described as an enclave surrounded on four sides by reality. But Washington, too, is reality. Indeed, it is time to take seriously this sobering and uncomfortable truth that we do indeed have a representative government. It really does represent the realities of the American mind, with all of that mind's conflicts and contradictions. So, if we are embarrassed by Washington, we really are embarrassed about ourselves. I think every public speaker should have a clear point to make. My model of such a speaker is the late Conrad Hilton, the hotel magnate. In one national television appearance late in his life, he was invited to tell the national audience the one thing, based on his life's experiences, he would most like his listeners to hear. Hilton, like a great trooper, turned to the camera, looked America in the eye, and said, "Please, put the curtain inside the tub." His message may have lacked metaphysical profundity, but if you owned 250,000 bathtubs, you'd say the same thing. It was nicely practical, and my message also to you is nicely practical. There is much talk today about the heated discord in our politics. The discord is real enough, but the bigger problem today is consensus. The consensus is as broad as the Republic and as deep as the Grand Canyon. This consensus is that we should have a large, generous welfare state and not pay for it. Rather, we should borrow a significant portion of the cost of our consumption of government goods and services. This places the burden of paying for this portion on the unconsenting because unborn members of future generations. Now, we should not sugarcoat this practice. We should call it what it is. It is decadent democracy. We used to run deficits. We used to borrow for the future. We fought and won wars for the future. We built roads and dams, bridges and airports for the future. Now we are borrowing from the future to pay for our own comforts. If you want to help change this, and I hope you do, you are going to have to participate in politics. But if you do participate, you are going to have to understand the patience required by the American political system. Nowadays, it is constantly said that Washington is dysfunctional because it is so difficult to get things done there. My message to you is, it is supposed to be difficult. It is constantly said that Washington's worst aspect is gridlock. My message to you is that gridlock is not an American problem, it is an American achievement. Here is why. When the Constitution's framers assembled in Philadelphia in the sweltering summer of 1787, they did not try to produce an efficient government. The idea would have horrified them. Rather, they wanted to create a safe government, a government strong enough to protect our natural rights, but not so strong that it could threaten those rights. The most important word in our nation's most important document, the Declaration of Independence, is the word secure. The Declaration famously says, "We hold it to be self-evident that all persons are created equal and endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights, and governments are instituted to secure those rights." Note well, government exists not to give us our rights, but to secure our rights that pre-exist government. To make government safe, the framers filled our government with blocking mechanisms designed to make it difficult to move. The framers framed 3 independent and rival branches of government and 2 rival chambers of the legislative branch. The framers created supermajority requirements and presidential vetoes and legislative veto overrides and judicial review. Passage of legislation was made deliberately difficult. You need not just one majority, but concurrent majorities. A majority in the House of Representatives with its unique constituencies and electoral rhythms, and a majority in the Senate with its different constituencies and electoral rhythms. So, does legislation take time? Yes. Is it difficult? Certainly. But it is supposed to be difficult. Our system is designed to protect us from majorities that are turbulent, transient, and dangerous. That is, our constitutional system is designed to protect us from ourselves, from our tumultuous passions and our imprudent desires. There are strong passions now roiling our politics, but there is a good reason why the temperature of American politics is unusually high today. This is because the stakes are unusually high. We are debating about two fundamental values of Western political philosophy: freedom and equality. These are both important. They are always somewhat in tension. The tension is constantly being adjusted. Today, liberals emphasize equality, not just equality of opportunity, but increased equality of social outcomes. Hence, they advocate the expansion of entitlement programs that make more and more Americans equally dependent on a common source of material well-being, the government. Conservatives today emphasize freedom more than equality. Hence, they prefer market forces rather than government to allocate wealth and opportunity. And they regard the multiplication of entitlement programs as inimical to the public good because they regard them as subversive of the attitudes and aptitudes essential for a free society, such as thrift, industriousness, self-reliance, and deferral of gratifications. Now, there are empirical questions at issue in today's sharp philosophical disagreements between liberals and conservatives. Empirical questions such as, what are the behavioral effects of entitlement programs, and do markets efficiently and fairly allocate wealth and opportunity? Furthermore, there are honorable and intelligent men and women passionately engaged on both sides of this debate. Their passions are proportional to the stakes of the argument. And I hope that you, the class of 2014, will join them. After all, you are today certified as having met the high standards of a university that is a custodian of a great tradition of Western philosophy, including political philosophy. Catholic thinkers from Augustine to Aquinas, to Cardinal Newman to Pope John Paul II, have produced some of the most profound reflections on the right kind of regime to facilitate human flourishing. And speaking of human flourishing, I would be remiss if I concluded my remarks without offering a tribute to one of the noblest aspects of this noble university. Niagara University is a pioneering national leader in helping the developmentally disabled to participate in our society. This matters to me for reasons already mentioned. My son John has Down syndrome, a congenital genetic disability that involves, among other things, varying degrees of mental retardation. When John was born, a hospital official asked his mother and me if we intended to take John home. We said, well, yes, we thought that was what people did with their newborn children. This was in 1972. Times and attitudes have changed for the better, thanks in part to institutions like Niagara University. When John was born, the life expectancy of persons with Down syndrome was about 20. Last Sunday, John celebrated his 42nd birthday. America's Down syndrome. America's Down syndrome citizens are living longer and flourishing because America has become more welcoming to them, helping them learn and work, because, that is, of the kind of work done here on their behalf by Niagara University. John today works in the clubhouse of the Washington Nationals baseball team. He gets up every morning and goes to work at a major league ballpark, which means he has a much better job than I have. So again, I want to thank Niagara University not only for allowing me the pleasure of your company today, but also for helping so many people like John. And I want to emphasize the message of John's life. Change is possible. Change can be swift and dramatic. And change begins when places like Niagara University decide that there is a moral imperative for change. But you know that. You have sojourned here for 4 splendid and privileged years. Now, class of 2014, go forth and make this great university as proud of you as you have a right to be of the diplomas you have earned here. Thank you and good luck.